Okay, meeting is called to order. The May 22nd, 2012 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Do we have a motion to add or delete to the agenda? To a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Approve the agenda as presented.
Vote?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Now this dates back quite a ways, actually. The October 25th, 2011 minutes. That, as John said, Christmas is past and Easter's past. So, do we have a motion for the minutes?
So moved.
Do we have any discussion? I have one comment. Normally when we have an auxiliary structure, a second auxiliary structure, as I recall, we usually put in the motion that the second structure would be removed. Is that the case here? I don't.
On the old.
Yeah, the October. You know, they had the old barn there, or the old. Is that going to be removed?
I think that was. Yeah, I think that was her. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I just didn't see it because normally we put it in the.
It should be in there.
The animal shelter. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be in there. If it's to be removed, it should be in the minutes.
Yeah, I just wonder if we could update the minutes to include that. To remove it. Is that necessary?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So we'll add it.
So remove the second.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do that.
So do we have a motion to approve the amendment?
I'll do that.
Vote?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Now we have before us one zoning variance. It's appeal number 12-001. And who's the party that's going to make the presentation? Okay, that's fine. You want to come up to the podium?
My name's Marcia Morgos, and I bought the property at 21527 Park Lane.
Talk into the mic, please.
And I'd like to build a garage. There's no garage on the property, and there's a 40-foot setback that our plans for a two-car garage exceeded by a few feet. And hopefully we could find room for it. It's Rick Bull could explain it better about the details of it. But I think it's about a 3.5 foot encroachment from the into the 40-foot setback from the street.
3.5, 4.5. It's 4 foot 2. 4
foot 2. I'm sorry.
4 foot 1.5.
That's it.
1.5.
Well, maybe I could go through a little bit of detail the plan. I'm Rick Bowl. I was the fellow that prepared the drawings. And just to orient yourself a little bit, I believe everybody's got a copy of this drawing. So the site is on the corner of Church Road and Park Lane. It's the southeast corner, and because it's a corner lot, It's got actually two front yards. One front yard that abuts the church, and then a front yard that abuts Parkway. This is the existing structure, and it's had a varied history. We were trying to figure out before we got here. The last usage, we believe, was a daycare center, and then we're not real sure prior to that, but what we're proposing doing is it's being converted to a single-family residence, and we want to add a garage on the north end. And it's going to be a garage and a storage room in the back. And to get two cars in this garage, we've got to make it 25 feet wide across the front, or 24 feet wide, basically. And then that encroaches on the front yard setback by 4 foot, 1.5. And if I could kind of lead you through the thinking process that we went through. Let's see, in locating it where we did, we took a look at a bunch of various options of where we could put a two-car garage on this particular site. One of the first options was to build a garage in the same location, but you can't get a two-car garage there without a variance, so that you could put a one-car garage there, but not two. And then we also looked at putting it on the south end of the building, and that's doable, and there are no zoning variances required there, but the access into the house then is actually through the master bedroom, which doesn't seem very practical. You could also put a detached garage further into the yard, but that pretty much uses up all the yard space there. Or you could put a detached garage in what is the rear the rear yard of this property, or the side yard of the place next to it. But based on the required distance between the building and the separation between the garage building and the existing building, you end up then with still a one-car garage. So we kind of drifted back to this spot on the north end of the building as the most logical spot to put a two-car garage on this particular site. And that's kind of why we're here tonight, seeking the variance. I guess the only other piece is kind of an aside, we're also adding a front porch on the Park Lane side, and that falls within the front yard setback, so there's no zoning variance required for that.
I'd just like to mention, too, that we have one neighbor that's on Church Street. I think that's really the only neighbor that's adjoining the property, and I have a letter from her. She's in favor of the plan. She looked at the drawings, and she's in favor of it. I could pass the letter around. I don't have copies of it, but if you'd like to see it, I could get that around.
Okay. That's the neighbor immediately to the east?
Yes.
So it would be this house right here.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any questions?
Yeah.
Does the board have any questions?
Quickly, Rick,
Yes, sir.
what's the normal two-car garage dimension?
About 24 feet. You could do it at 22 maybe. A garage door is 16 minimum, 18 is a nice size. So we can't fit a two-car garage inside the space, so we said, well, a 24-foot garage is about the normal width for a garage.
Okay, so
And if you notice the plan, it's a little bit wider in the front. It's actually 25 feet.
yeah, that's why I'm asking.
And then there's a little bit of a jog in the house. Now, the problem is that jog is only 14 feet, and we stuck it out an extra 23 feet past the front of the house, but it's still not enough to get two cars in there. It's stuck out about 3 feet beforehand, so you can still only get one car because of the little jog in the house there.
So how much additional space are you asking for? Just so I hear it.
We're asking for a variance of 4 foot, 1.5 inches.
4.5.
We also took a look at, you might find this interesting, I know I did when I took a look at it. You kind of always try to see what the character of the neighborhood is. And this is a drawing, or it's an aerial photograph actually, of the site. and it's oriented towards north is up. So here is our site right here. This is Church, and this is Park Lane. And what I did is I drew a 40-foot setback line as it goes east and west along the street. So if we look at the property immediately to the east, they are encroaching on the 40-foot setback in the front yard. The next adjacent house is not. It meets the 40-foot setback. And then the two neighbors, as you move to the east, are both encroaching on the 40-foot setback line. And then if you follow the same logic going south, the immediate house in the corner meets the setback, but then the two adjacent houses, as you move down the street, do not. So I realize that it's not a precedent-setting issue. You guys can't decide on that, but it does kind of define the character of the neighborhood a little bit.
Yeah, those are probably grandfathered. Those are the older structures, I would guess.
Certainly the house immediately.
The one east is, yes.
I'm not sure about the balance of them.
I believe the one that had the fire is now further back, so that one may be in compliance. I don't know for sure.
Yes, it is.
Is that off our photograph? Is that, would that be like right here?
Yeah.
That may be the only one on the block.
That's recent.
Rick, this thing keeps falling off here. Don't touch it. You looked at three possibilities. You know, I was just looking at this. What happens if you come around and put the garage doors on the church side?
Yeah, that's what I was.
There's a fire hydrant.
It's got to get longer.
You mean actually make the
Yeah.
fire hydrant right here? Well, that's one of the problems. The other is that I'm not sure that we still wouldn't require a variance, although it might be a lesser one, assuming we could split the fire hydrant issue.
Where's the fire hydrant?
Is the entrance to the property on Park Lane or the church?
It is. That's where the current driveway is.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Yeah, this is the current driveway.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting you move the driveway over to church. You know,
You
that
were thinking about just putting the garage door.
yeah, just keeping the driveway the way it is and just coming around. Because you need 4 foot 1.5 inches, and you got at the lesser dimension 24.4, you'd probably end up with what 20-foot deep garage.
Yeah, which is,
About 20 foot. I don't know if that's, in your estimation, 20 foot is,
well, the length of an F-150 Ford pickup is like 18 feet 5.
18 feet 5.
Yeah, so
Wow.
you have just a little bit front and back if you use that approach. I mean, it would be doable. Certainly Focus could fit in there, but not a large
That
vehicle.
dimension, you'd hardly be able to get out of the car.
Yeah, you'd get out and you'd be able to squeeze between the front and the back.
but that would be doable, but you'd have some problems with that too.
It would be doable, but you'd end up with a minimum.
Yeah,
garage there.
right. You know, the other thing is, I was looking at, you're asking for what square footage on the garage?
900. I think it's about 950 square feet, too.
I believe you're right. Yeah, the proposed garage is 950 square feet.
950?
950, 915.
915. Because I was looking at, I just mentally calculated the lot area. It's less than 30,000 square feet, I think.
Yeah,
Am I right?
We've got the lot coverage ratio numbers on the first page.
Yeah,
That's the cover sheet. It's down on the left-hand corner.
Yeah.
Our coverage ratio with the garage is 14.5%.
Now, what about what's the ruling for the size of the garage with less than 30,000? It seems to me that there's
That only applies to detached buildings, not attached.
That applies only to detached buildings, not to attached.
Correct.
Okay.
And we did run the lot coverage calculations, and they did comply.
So those are all okay. It's going to make an improvement. That's all I got to say. I mean, that corner is was an eyesore. Actually.
Yeah, it sure is. One more thing about putting the doors on the church side of the house. That would leave me very little room to landscape it. I plan on doing some nice landscaping on the corner there. And it'd be all just a driveway, just, it'd be hard to landscape it if that had to be a driveway there.
Yeah, our tact here is to try to fall within the ordinances as they're established and do everything possible to try to get that done. So you always look at alternatives to help the situation along. Brian, do you have any comments?
Honestly, Mr. Chair, I think the presentation and the questions we've heard so far.
You've got a mic over there.
It's on, as much as I can tell. You want me just to speak up? Is that okay? Mic or no mic? I don't need a mic. I believe through Mr. Bold's presentation, as well as the questions from the board, all of the high points of my review letter have been hit. I think the key is the variance that we're looking at, that we looked at some alternatives, they were evaluated. If the board deems those alternatives unreasonable or impractical, then you're in a position to look at this. I don't personally think that it's an excessive variance in terms of what they're asking for on the dimensions of the garage. I guess I would add, if the doors were to be located on the north side, I'm just looking at the plan drawing, it could probably be done, but it's going to be a pretty tight turning radius as well. I mean, you're going to essentially have, for the most part, and then you're going to have a sort of a three-point turnaround to back out of the garage and get to the driveway. Most of that northerly yard is going to become hard surface if that occurs. So while it may be a viable option, they're all, on some level, they're all viable, but are they reasonable and are they practical, I think, is where you need to put your focus as a board. And I think the one other thing Mr. Bull touched on, we talked a little bit about earlier, Mr. Morgos purchased this property that was not originally intended for use as a residence. My understanding is it's had multiple uses related to Sacred Heart, and most recently was a daycare, child care facility of some sort. And that is that's a little bit different. Converting a non-residential structure into a residential use, to me, that's in all likelihood why there never was a garage here in the first place. We don't see, I'm not saying there aren't any, because there are, we don't see many residences in the township that don't have some form of a garage. This would be one that currently does not. Obviously, most of them do, and it's a rather common accessory component to any residential land use. So those would be the only other comments that I wanted to point out. Happy to take any questions or stop talking.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, about what actually was the structure originally. What was it originally? And I think we probably figure out maybe it was part of this convent for Sacred Heart.
That's what I heard at one point. I haven't got any factual.
But you look at the blocks. I mean, the construction and the blocks are similar to the school. To the school.
It looks like it's a similar vintage too.
Yeah. So if it was a convent, then the nuns were living there, so they didn't need a garage, right?
I'm not sure.
Oh, they flew around?
You got any other questions?
I think that we certainly made every effort to do it another way, and I certainly have no objection to the idea of putting the doors on the other side, but I don't think that's necessary.
Okay, can we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, just I know there's nobody here, but just for the record purposes, we should ask for public comment, as this is a public hearing, but obviously there's nobody here.
Well, public comment, considering that there's no one here, but we did hear from the owner who said that they had approval from a neighbor. I don't know, one neighbor, two neighbors?
One neighbor is all we have that's joining us, except for the Sacred Heart. But I don't think they have a problem.
Is that sufficient, Brian?
I could pass this letter around if you guys, I didn't have a chance to make it.
Should be part of the record.
Correct. Yeah, I guess I would just ask Mr. Morgos if you can, we can make a copy after the meeting, but it should be presented as part of the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are you going to read it, John?
Oh, I can do that.
Oh, good point. Read it out.
To whom it may concern, I guess, Grosse Ile Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Jennifer Fleenor. I own the property at 7795 Church Road, Grosse Ile, Michigan, 48138. I am a direct next-door neighbor to 21527 Park Lane, Grosse Ile, Michigan, 48138. I am knowledgeable of Mr. Margot's plan to construct an attached garage on his property. I understand that this does not conform to the required front yard setback on his lot. I support Mr. Margot's and have no problem with his plan for this construction. I do not feel that this will in any way cause myself any problems. I believe that his plans for home renovation will do nothing but improve his property. I am in support of allowing his appeal to be approved. If you have any questions, you can contact me, and I won't leave the phone number. And it's signed by Jennifer Fleenor.
Okay, with that, I think we can go forward then with the motion. Let's,
I'll make a motion to approve Appeal 12-001 to allow the occupant the ability to build a garage which will go into the setback off of Church Road. And the rationale for this is the fact that it is actually lined up with the other houses that are on Church Road, and it is the best use of the property as far as practical use for a garage is concerned.
Second.
discussion? Any discussion? If not, to vote?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. Approved.
Thank you very much.
I believe Mr. Margos gets a letter then, or what's the next step? Letter goes to the building department.
Yeah, he has to wait 5 days before he gets the permit. You come in and apply for it, you have to wait 5 days and then you'll get a letter.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have any comments or miscellaneous information that we want to talk about?
Jim, where are we on this board here? I assume you're chairman now?
That's the assumption, yes.
Duly elected. Duly elected, is it?
I'm not elected yet.
We'll hear more later. Yeah, we will hear more later.
Oh.
But in the meantime, he's vice chairman.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, good. What's
the procedure then?
Well, our view is that Ms. Fittinger was elected as the vice chair. Vice chair's duties are to act as chair in the absence of the chair. Where in the absence of the chair, therefore, vice chair acts as chair.
So where do we stand, though? Tom is obviously resigned, right?
We are short one. We have one open seat. We have 6 appointed board members. We are a 7-member body. Obviously, we were too short tonight, but one of those seats is still filled. So that's my understanding, is that at some point, I would hope that the board would be considering any applications that they may have to fill that seat. Because then we still also have a vacant alternate seat as well. Don't forget, we have an alternate on this board. So technically, we could fill 2 seats.
So the alternate becomes a member automatically?
The alternate would sit in the absence of any one of the regular members, or in the instance of a conflict of interest. So it is very, as you can see tonight, if we had an alternate, we're too short, so we would have, the alternate would sit on the meeting. So it is an important role. I don't know how many petitions the supervisor or manager's office have or have not received. So it's something that we'll certainly try to keep you guys apprised of.
Brian, you say it's important, and it is, because I sat here with only 4 members present, and you needed a unanimous
Correct.
vote.
They have a right not to hear, not to be heard.
And
Just a minimum.
the citizen, the township citizen, has a right to get this.
I've had
Plus street space and deadlines, weather, and...
when we had the string of meetings with only 4 present, I did have I had a conversation with the township manager, and I informed him that, we really, if we don't have applications, it'd be nice if, we could actively seek some. Board members could, at board meetings, if they, we're on TV right now, they could submit applications if they're interested.
So we can beg now.
I'm trying. But yeah, it's not fair. To sit with only 4 is not fair to the applicant. It's also not fair to you as board members. You're put in a position where you feel you may feel obligated knowing that you're the swing vote. Each one of you, if there's only 4, is a swing vote, and or you can turn down an entire project just based on one voice. So it's something that again I'll do whatever I can to help and to work with it. But until that time, we can operate fine. As long as we have 4, we can have a meeting, and we have 5 tonight, so we're in good shape.
The other thing is, I was looking back in the records, and we had, in 2002, we had it was like a little primer on the Zoning Board of Appeals. It was a, I don't know if is anybody here? It was 2002, so we were given it was like a lesson plan on how the Zoning Board of Appeals, it gave a history, and then it gave a little documentation on how the zoning ordinances came to be. It was kind of interesting, and it said, here's how you should look at the ordinances. And I think it was...
Les Neal.
Yeah.
Les Neal was
but I'm just wondering if when we finally get everything settled on...
I have a ZBA basic training, so to speak, that I don't remember the last time we did it for Groseal Township, but I can certainly look and or tailor something towards this community. Your basic duties and responsibilities are no different than any other ZBA, so it's not that hard. I give that training probably 4 or 5 times a year, so it's not any stretch, and if you feel it would be helpful, be more than happy to do it.
We've had some changes in the zoning law. Well,
since 2002, we've got all new planning and zoning statutes, so that's a pretty long time. There are also, I'm happy to do something for you, if we have a light agenda, if we do have a meeting again, but we only have 1 case, we can do that. We could, you should also know though too, there are other opportunities. The Michigan Association of Planning does a number of training events throughout the year. I actually have done some of those. So that's something to think about. Do you guys get the publication?
Yes. Yeah.
Something to look at. If you take a peek through it every month or whatever, you see a training seminar that catches your eye, let Lori know, because I believe we do have some monies budgeted under the ZBA line item for training and education. So if there's ever anything outside that interests you, bring it up, certainly. But I'll plan to, throw something together and have it ready to go for whenever we meet again next.
Yeah, because I'd like to do it when the board, we finally fill the vacants.
We can wait till we have a full body, so we're not leaving somebody out as well. That's fair, absolutely.
Okay.
It's a great idea.
So how do we elect a new chairman then? I don't understand.
Our intent is that I believe, Lori and I looked back at the records, and usually the election of officers is a once-a-year thing, and I believe that we'd be coming up to that 1 year. So in all likelihood, your next meeting, whenever that is, we will have election of officers. Election of officers will be one of the business items, and then we'll be in a position to elect a chairman, a vice chairman, as we've done in the past. Or chairperson, I should say. Didn't mean to be gender specific, sorry.
That being said, do we have anything coming up?
No.
Nothing coming up.
No, we've been nice in the building department.
They've been nice.
No, we've been strict and people are complying. How about
Yeah,
that?
there you go.
Let me, if I could, Mr. Chair, just one other thing. I don't know, Lord, did you pass them out yet? Or yeah, we do have, the Township Board recently adopted a handful of amendments to the zoning ordinance. Our office and the Planning Commission started with the subcommittee of the Planning Commission, worked its way up to the full Planning Commission, and then obviously onto the Township Board. But for a good chunk of time last winter, we worked on those amendments, and you'll see those incorporated into your new sections that Lori handed out. If you have any questions on any of them, certainly feel free to let us know, either myself directly or via Lori or Tony, and we'll be glad to kind of help walk you through either what the thought process was or why we did it or what does this mean. I don't know that there were any really substantial changes. We really tried to focus on cleaning up and clarifying some items that that staff had some issues with. We'd had some enforcement and/or interpretation matters that we really wanted to tighten up and make sure that the ordinance was as clear as it could be. I think we've hit that, but you never really know until an ordinance is tested. So until we actually apply it to something, then we'll know for sure whether or not we got it right. But I think we did.
Yeah, well, Tony does a good job enforcing. He's a...
Well, we try. What he's discussing was basically, the highlight was generators and air conditioning placement. And that was changed a little bit, so.
Yeah, because we just put a generator in about a year ago, and I know the placement issues.
Yeah.
Right.
How long have we
It is
had that?
amazing when the power goes out, how fast you hear those generators and how loud they are.
How long have we had that regulation on generators?
The revision was just adopted, but
Pardon?
the ordinance that predated that,
I can't hear.
the board just adopted an amendment to that section. So now the regulations are different
Is it
than
in
what
here,
they were. But
in
yeah.
this one?
Yeah.
Well, I have one that if the rule had been in before, it would be non-conforming, but now it would be just there. But I had heard it, and I thought, I don't think we didn't have that rule in, as far as I know.
Well, there
at the
were
time.
regulations. They were,
It does now.
well, there was a regulation. We've just amended essentially where you can put them.
Okay.
So we've actually provided, I think, some more opportunities when the circumstances are proper. We've given the residents of the community some flexibility that they didn't have previously.
You see, because the big issue for the generators was the noise, the baffling of the noise.
Well, they've improved them to such a degree also, as far as the quietness factor.
Yeah, mine's the Generac, the new model, and so that's a lot quieter. Yes, it is.
And unfortunately, because of the ash borer, you've got Dutch elm now killing the elms, you got oak wilt, it's unfortunate, but the power issues, could continue for the future as these things become, it's just the way it is.
Okay, is there any other information? With that, can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Move to adjourn.
John said, support.
Support. Adjourn. Meeting adjourned.